So when you're thinking about product sourcing, it's really important to understand that this is really the crux of your success as a business owner. This is going to be how you communicate and demonstrate your brand's value and your ability to curate awesome packages, whether that's curation with other people's products or curation or product development around your own products. So when we're thinking about product sourcing for subscription boxes, keep in mind that you want to do it really, really well, not just so it's satisfactory and someone keeps their subscription, but so that they love it so much that they want to tell everybody about it. So as we get started in this webinar today, the first step is to create a sourcing worksheet. I think this is one of the best things that you can do as an exercise before you actually start finding products. The reason why you want to do this as an exercise because it actually gives you some kind of meat on the bones of what this process looks and feels like. So to create a sourcing worksheet, you can create one in Excel or in Google Sheets. There's going to be a bigger example of this on the next page as well. But depending on your niche, create one or several product areas. And then you want to fill out the product areas with different items. So you actually want to list the item names, the cost, shipping costs, the retail value, link to the product, and then some other fields once you actually start doing procurement, like have you paid them, has it shipped yet, is there a net 30 payment period on it, or something like that. So you're going to be using this in your monthly searching, and you're going to be filling it out accordingly. This is what this thing looks like full size. So this is something if you want to take a screenshot of, you can. If you want to get your own example of this, you want to have just like a pre-made version. You can get a very similar looking one from the resources section at Subscription School. So at Subscription School, you go to the right-hand side of the top menu, and you see the resources option. Under the free resources section right here, you'll see a product sourcing worksheet. That looks mostly similar to this. The one that you're looking at on the slideshow is one that I've custom developed for myself. It's mostly the same. The big difference being that I've got a couple different metrics that are being automatically calculated, one of which is my multiplier. And so this multiplier I've taken is basically just my total retail value divided by my total amount I'm spending on those products. So this is just some example data here. But if you look, you can see all these different random unit costs and then some different retail values. And then at the very end, you can see how they're all tallied up. And you can see that basically for every dollar I'm spending on products, I'm actually getting about $4.07 worth of value. So that's just something that I've done in this worksheet. If you want to get this specific worksheet, I actually sent it out to my blog followers. And my blog is just jesserichardson.com. And so all my new blog followers, I always send this out, usually at least once a week or so. It'll be the sample procurement worksheet. And then in addition to that, it's going to be a brand invitation that we can send to brands. But we're going to cover that later, so don't worry too much about that yet. But this is, like I said, this is important because it serves as not only an exercise for you, but it's also going to be a really practical tool that you're going to be using as you're actually building your business. So let's jump right into this. Kind of at the top level, there's some terms that you're going to want to know before you start kind of engulfing yourself in vendor discussions and relationship building. So procurement, you'll hear me say this word quite a bit during the webinar. Procurement is another word for product sourcing. It's just the operation of finding the goods that go inside your subscription. So whether I say when you're sourcing your product, or whether I say whether you're procuring your product, those words are synonymous with each other. So just keep that in mind. The next couple words here are PO, purchase order. This is just something that's going to be outlining the products being purchased, the quantity, the dates, the price. This is going to be a useful tool for record keeping for both you and your vendors and your vendor relationships. Net 30 is a specific payment period. I bring this up at the top because it's something that's really useful for especially early stage subscription businesses that might be a little bit more cash strapped than others. What net 30 is when the full payment is due at the close of a 30-day period. So maybe it's 50% down and 50% net 30. So when a vendor says, yeah, we can do net 30 or something like that, you know that you've got to pay the other portion in 30 days from your first purchase. So that's something to keep in mind. And you can actually see here on this sample procurement worksheet in the far right-hand column, the 50% payment, number 2. That would be an example of like if you had to use a net 30 payment. you list that there so you can keep track of who you have to pay at the end of each month. CRM is a customer relationship management tool. It's basically like an electronic address book with a little bit more advanced technology. Obviously, you've got some notes. You can add labels to it. You can sort things by location, different stuff like that. So it's a useful tool, and we'll go into that in a little bit too. The last definition I want you to know is lead time. This is really important when you're speaking with vendors because they're going to be mentioning their lead time, and you should be asking proactively, how much lead time do you need? Lead time is the amount of time provided to the vendor for production, shipping, and actually getting you that product. So you want to make sure you always have plenty of lead time each month. So you're definitely ensuring that your products are showing up on time and you're shipping on time. So let's jump into the steps here behind actually getting products. Step one is obviously just finding products. You've got your niche chosen. We're not really talking about the brand development of your product or your business right now during this webinar. So you should already have some footwork lane where you kind of know what types of products fit in your box. Maybe you've even done some shipments at this point. That'll be actually interesting for me to find out. I want to find out right now, have you procured or have you sourced for a box yet? Looks like we've got most of you so far. Give you a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close this poll. If you didn't vote, here's your last chance. Okay, so let me show you these results. So it looks like most of you haven't sourced for a box yet. Some of you have. So that's actually pretty interesting. I actually want to find out then, from those of you who have versus haven't, on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you perceive the difficulty of this operation? So how would you rate the difficulty of product sourcing, with 5 being the most difficult? So if 5 is the hardest, you think it's going to be like the hardest thing about your business, choose 5. If you think it's going to be really simple, it's going to be very easy, choose 1. And I want to note that I do see some questions coming in through the GoToWebinar control panel. So we'll definitely dedicate some time to answering these as we wrap up the webinar here. Okay, let me go ahead and close this poll. I think this is pretty interesting. So it looks like most of you, a good 70% of you, 75% of you think it's going to be pretty moderately difficult, if not more difficult than not. So 3s and 4s. I hope today that everybody gets down to the 2 and the 1 column, 2 and the 1 choice. For me, product sourcing is one of the most enjoyable parts of running these types of businesses. So for those of you, since most of us haven't procured or sourced boxes yet in this webinar, I think it's probably a lot of preconceived difficulty. So we'll address a lot of that throughout the webinar today. And then at the end of this webinar too, I'm going to ask you another question that's just, what makes product sourcing difficult for you? So as we go through this content, let me kind of keep that in mind. Be asking yourself, what do I think is going to be really difficult about this process? And then I'll pull you guys at the end so I can get your answers to that. Okay, so step 1, finding products. So locating products is usually the most enjoyable operation, but keep your expectations in mind. So, it's not as easy as just finding cool products. Obviously you've got a niche, you've got a target market that you're catering to. And more importantly than that is you've already got a set of expectations that you provided customers with. So when you're first thinking about finding your products, think about how you portrayed your products. So how have you spelled out that product offering? How have you detailed retail value? Are there other value propositions that you've kind of appealed to consumers? Is it unique products that you won't find on normal store shelves? Is it handmade products from the Pacific Northwest? Is it only full-size products? Keep those expectations in mind. And the reason why you want to do that is because expectations from customers should be what's leading fulfillment. And when I say leading fulfillment, I mean that when you're actually doing product sourcing, you should be astutely aware, of the expectations that your customers have, because if you don't meet those expectations, that's you're going to have high churn or high cancellations. So when you think about those expectations, make sure you're following through with your boxes. I've got a couple little lists here. This little procurement checklist that I suggest you follow each month. So, make sure it fits with your monthly theme. Make sure it fits with your budget and contributes value if that's something that you're marketing to consumers. Have you sent your invitation? It's something that we'll explain below. Did you confirm your order number total with your vendor? Did you finalize your price negotiation? Did you send that PO we were talking about? Have you tracked products? Did you track your payments? Did you follow up with the brand? This little checklist will be really useful, especially in this early stage of thinking about expectations, especially with A and B in this checklist. So maybe screenshot this or, quickly scribble it down. But by giving yourself this little, 9-point checklist, some of these things may or may not, be there for you. For example, like maybe you don't send a business invitation, but having this like posted and on your desk in front of your eyeballs all the time will help you stay on track when you're actually working through this process, especially this first step. Does it fit with my monthly theme? Does it contribute value in the way that I'm marketing it to customers? Let me go ahead and full screen present this. So continued. We talked about a CRM a little bit earlier, a customer relationship management tool. So you might be interested to find out more about this. It sounds like something that's pretty interesting. So do you need it? It's definitely a yes and no answer to that. CRMs can be super helpful if you're dealing with many different brands or you have lots of salespeople. One example of a CRM would be like Salesforce. You might have heard of it. I think that's kind of like the kind of the most popular CRM or the most kind of talked about CRM. I use one called Self 360. I actually haven't been using it recently because I have just been finding that I haven't been needing it. I've kind of been the only one sourcing products, and CRMs can cost $50, $100 a month, and so it's kind of just it kind of worked out to be not a really useful expense for me. Whereas when I was starting out, I had maybe one or two other people entering leads in there for me, so I wanted to see where leads were coming from. So if you think that you're going to have a sales team and you think that you're going to be dealing with lots and lots of different brands and you need to be keeping track of people really meticulously, then a CRM makes a lot of sense. If it's just you and you're only working with 3 or 4 companies a month, maybe you're only managing 15 to 20 conversations a month. And if that's the case, it's really not too much to kind of just use an Excel sheet, kind of the one that we talked about earlier, and to keep track of your contacts like that. So when we spoke about expectations earlier, we talked about your niche. So a niche is a well-defined, very specific part of a market, and finding products means knowing where your type of niche products exist. So I've listed about 6 different places to find products on here, from the kind of obvious stuff to a little bit more obscure things. So especially early on, for those 70% of you who haven't sourced products yet, I would totally suggest going to a local store who fits your niche and just go find some products. Whether or not you actually use those in your first box, this is a really good exercise. Get a cardboard box, put some packing material in it, tissue paper or something like that, and go find 5 or 6 products or however many products you think are representative of what you'll be sending subscribers, and get your hands on them. See how they look in your box. See if your box size works for the types of products you thought you wanted to have inside your box. This is a great kind of visceral experience to give yourself. The downside of actually doing this long term for actual sourcing for each month is that you're just limited to their stock. So if you're looking for some very specific type of like herbalism products, maybe there's this cool herbalism store in your city. The chances are that they don't have all the herbalism products that are available, obviously. So you're limited to their stock, so don't rely on local stores. But you can find, I've definitely walked into local stores here in Portland and picked up products that I eventually procured for my box. Obviously Google. So general web searching is a quick and easy way to locate products. Obviously the downside is lots to dig through. I'm going to give you guys a tool a little bit to help you with Google. I think it's on the next slide or the slide after. But if you're really going to be really relying on just mining data from Google, this is another time where CRMs might make a lot of sense, because then you can just be directly entering these leads into your CRM. You don't have to be really worried about thinking about them. It's just kind of like a mining operation. It's kind of like a minutia operation where you're just drudging through Google and you are just digging through it and giving yourself leads. Etsy is great for smaller, more boutique brands. Lots of people in the handmade, natural, artisan niche can be found on Etsy. I do a lot of my sourcing on Etsy because I just really like the quality of products that come off of Etsy, and I really like working with small business owners. The downside is they're smaller vendors most of the time. I would say a great majority of the time. So the downside of working with smaller vendors is, number one, they might not always have their prices worked out great. You could. There's been more than one scenario when I have been negotiating with a vendor from Etsy, and it really just comes down to because they didn't price their product correctly, and so they don't have any margin to work with, and so it's difficult for me to purchase that product if I don't have a good value associated with it. And so you're going to run into stuff like that, or people who require some more lead time. They have a full-time job. This is their hobby. Also, with ordering large quantities of things, it's a little bit more difficult with Etsy vendors. They might not have good wholesale relationships or already established for their ingredients, whatever product they might be using, and so you might need to help them out there. I've helped a couple Etsy people before, get better labels, find different ingredients for their products to bring down cost. They're just a little bit more of not all of them. Some of them are very, very professional, very, very experienced, but you'll definitely eventually run into some people who are still kind of, this is a starter business for them. So outside of those three, there's the niche e-commerce stores. So a niche e-commerce store is something that really started taking shape. I want to say more like around 2000, the late 2000s, so 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. A lot of big niche e-commerce stores started appearing and started getting really big followings. So, for example, a niche e-commerce store would be contrasted to something like Amazon, because Amazon sells everything. When you think of something like Abe's Market, which is a natural product e-commerce store, they only sell natural products that fit their standards. So it's going to be it's going to be organic, local, sustainable, stuff like that. Whereas, you go on to Amazon or something like that, or some big, just general e-commerce store, and you might find a lot of different products with a lot of different types of quality. So to give you an example of this, I want to make this clear so you guys, fully understand how you would actually order from these places. Let's say you found someone either on some type of e-commerce store, someone that's being resold through somebody else. So let's say you're doing a Bath and Body subscription box, and you want to find a shea butter. So we go to Abe's Market. We know that Abe's Market has lots of cool natural products. We go to the shea butter section, and we see all these awesome brands. So we've got Only Shea, we've got Sweet Lavender Shea, we've got Fresh Mint, we've got After Sun. Oh, these are all the same. Blends for Life Organics. Blends for Life Organics. Blends for Life Organics. Here's another one. Aura's Amazing Herbal. Objects with Purpose. Thesis Beauty. Holly Beth Organics. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brands. It looks like all these top ones are the same. Yep, they're all the same. So we have 5 brands in this one section that all make a certain type of shea product. So what you could do is you could go to a niche e-commerce site, like we've spelled out here, and you say, okay, I can find 5 or 6 different brands right now, and I'm going to go ahead and reach out to these brands to see if I can get one of these products in my box. It's really nice because I can quickly see what the retail value is, and so if I think I'm not going to have as much budget for these $26 ones, maybe I want to reach out to this cheaper one. It's an easy way for me to really quickly compare a bunch of different types of products. I can go in here, I can look at the different qualities here with Abe's Market. I can read a little bit more about it. I can quickly find more about the brand. Even click through to the brand's website. I think this takes it to another place on Abe's Market, but you could really quickly put in here Objects with Purpose. And here we go. And now we found this. Now we found this person's website. So when you find products through niche e-commerce stores, you're not going to be reaching out to Abe's Market. Even though we found them on this platform, we're never going to email Abe's Market. And in fact, with other aspects of finding these products, you never want to reach out to a distributor or someone who's reselling the product. And the reason why that is because you're involving a third party and you're going to have to giving them a commission. So it's inherently going to be more expensive than if you just reached out to the manufacturer themselves. So this is just an example. I mean, you could go to, for example, Bass Pro Shops. Let's say you're doing a fly fishing thing. We go to Bass Pro Shops. We go to fishing. We want to go to fly fishing, and we want to look at some awesome, fly lines. And here we go. We've got a bunch of different brands now that we can go choose, and we can go find all these different types of fly lines. And then, this one right here, the Scientific Anglers. I can go in here, type in Scientific Anglers, and now I've got this lead for myself. So I just found a very specific type of product for my very specific type of niche subscription box, and I'm not reaching out to Bass Pro Shops. I'm just using them as a source of leads, and then I'm reaching out to this manufacturer myself. I'm going to go to hit contact, and then I'm going to give them a call, and I'm going to see if I can get their fly fishing line in my next box. So that's an example of how to kind of work through a niche e-commerce store to find good products for your own subscription. So sit there and think about it for a second. What's your niche, and where would someone that likes your niche go to shop online? A couple other options: Alibaba, IndiaMart. I personally, don't suggest, really using these. These are like cheap overseas stuff that's going to be manufactured for you. There might be some cases where you could use something like this in your subscription box, but generally, I would say that probably most of your products are going to come from people who are actually manufacturing great products. This is a place for like really, really cheap. Maybe it's like a sitting pad, or maybe it's like you can find just about anything you want. You can find pocket knives, you can find anything on Alibaba. Just the thing you got to realize, it's coming from a big manufacturer overseas, and the quality is just not going to be the same as working with a local manufacturer or a local business here in the United States. The other thing, this kind of thing about is payment terms. It's a little bit more shady. You can use PayPal, for example. It's what I would suggest using. It offers buyer protection for overseas as long as it's within the terms of use. But you only have 45 days to make that claim after the date of the purchase, and 45 days in terms of shipping something from overseas and having them produce it. It's about the time. That's about the time I would expect to actually get that product. So it's a pretty tight window. Maker's Row is for American manufacturers. It's like a subscription where you pay like $9, $19 a month or something like that, and you're able to find local American manufacturers. Maybe if you're doing handbags or belts or things that require manufacturing and it's your own product, that's when you would use something like Maker's Row. As you find products, though, add them to your procurement worksheet or your CRM. So remember, you'd be adding these things to this Excel sheet or adding them actually to your CRM so you can keep track of those people that you found. I mentioned another tool I was going to give you when we're talking about Google. Evernote is a really helpful app. The kind of the best thing about it is the web clipper extension. It allows you to save notes in a particular folder. So when you find a product, you can make notes on it and then save those notes like you would with a CRM. But because it integrates with Google, the next time you're surfing for your products, you can see those notes on the right-hand side of your Google search. So in the Google search, you'll actually see your notes from last time, which is really useful when you're going through pages and pages of different Google searches. There's tagging like you can do in a CRM, and there's other cool add-ons like a mobile scanner for organizing PDFs. If you're out in farmers markets or you're out meeting people at small business conferences, there's an optical character recognition thing with Evernote where you can scan business cards. You don't have to keep a bunch of business cards on you all the time. And on the right-hand side, you can see some examples of one time I was using Evernote for a June box last year, and how I was taking pictures of the products and then making notes of that on the right-hand side. And you can see I can also share that notebook with other people I was collaborating with on that month. So step 2 is making contact. So once you've found all of your brands or some of your brands, you're gonna need to start reaching out to them. It has to start somewhere, so it's usually a cold email or a cold call. What I found to be most effective is cold emailing them. If you have the time to go ahead and cold call people, definitely do it. But what I found is it usually doesn't require it. So if you can instead schedule 25 emails in 15 minutes versus having one phone call in 15 minutes, then definitely schedule those emails. And the emails should be very short, concise, and it's really the idea is just to pique their interest. Have it, pretty non-committal. You want to just say, hey, I'm interested in this type of thing. I'm buying this thing. If you're buying it, I need it by this date. Can you let me know more about this? Don't worry about sending a big long email with bullet points and like all this crazy different stuff. If it warrants it, then you can go ahead and do that, absolutely. But generally, what I found with conversion rates, as far as getting eyeballs back to my email and getting replies, it seems like shorter works better. And you can also include a short PDF about your company. So if you do want to include more information, you can send this little 2-sentence email, attach a PDF, and say, I've also attached a PDF if you want to learn more about me. So there's 2 prompts here, one on the top, one on the bottom. The one on the bottom is very similar to the one on the top, but maybe take a screenshot of this so you can kind of keep in mind. But basically it says, hi there, I'm interested in placing a bulk order of number of units for this product. I wanted to learn more about your wholesale pricing. I've attached a PDF with more information about our company, and we need the products by this date. I'm happy to hop on the phone and discuss the opportunity a bit more as well. Thank you. The other template just says, hi, I'm with this company, a monthly care package for this niche. I'm interested in buying around blank number of units for the product. I'm curious what sort of pricing you can offer and how much lead time you need. I'd like to send these out by this date. We're located in this city and state. Let me know if this is doable. So there's a little bit more information in the second one. But you can use either one of these as your prompts and just kind of be dropping in your own information. But keep conversion rates in mind. You might have to contact 50 companies to hear back from 10 of them. So we talked about a business invitation. So what does it actually look like? This is a business invite right here. This is the first 2 pages of the business invite that I send out for my current business, Prosperly. It's an artisan food subscription box. And I attach this to my email. So I say, hey, this is what we do. I need this many units by this date. Here's where we are. Can we do this? Can you let me know more about your pricing options? And I attach this PDF to them. So if they are interested in doing that, and if they can, then they can open that up really quickly. They can see a picture of my product. They can hear a little elevator pitch about it. I entice them by saying, are you ready to sell hundreds of SKUs to customers who will love your product? They can learn more about the demographics of my subscribers. And there's some other cool pages associated with this that I give them too about the different marketing that we provide people. If you want an example of this, like I said, both this and the procurement worksheet is available on my blog. You enter your email in, and then I will email it to you. So it's a newsletter. Once you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get an email back that has these tools in there for you that you can download the PDFs and the Excel versions of them. And just so you know, I've seen these questions come in. Feel free to keep asking. We're gonna jump into that in about 8 minutes. Okay, so step 3. Step 1, we found our products. Step 2, we touch base. Now we're in the negotiation phase, right? So negotiations and lowering price. This is really where you want to get really great at what you do. So negotiations deal with the dollar value you purchased the product for. And this deals with a couple different elements of product purchasing. So number 1, don't ever pay more than wholesale. The thing to keep in mind is that at very least you deserve wholesale pricing because you are distributing their product for them and you are bulk buying these products. So because of the nature of our businesses and because we're bulk buying things, you at least qualify for wholesale pricing. Now, wholesale is usually reserved for traditional retailers. People who buy products at a wholesale price then mark it up and then they resell it to consumers. That markup to the MSRP or even higher or maybe even lower depending on the retailer, that's how they make their profit. If I sell you a $10 candle at a $5 wholesale and then you sell it for $10, you make that extra $5. I got the $5 wholesale price that covers my costs, gives me a little bit of profit, and you as a retailer are then allowed to resell it for basically whatever you want, depending on the agreement. The thing to keep in mind is we're not traditional retailers. We're not selling products one by one. It's often a one-time shipment where the product is packaged alongside a bunch of other products. And usually the pitch is to consumers about discovery. Most subscription boxes are saying, find these products, it's a surprise. This is a great way to discover these types of things. And that matters for a big reason. So why does the pitch matter? Because this dictates how the relationship is going to be between the product and the customer. If you want your customer to discover healthy snacks, then you tell that pitch to your vendors, because then they realize that they have access to an audience who wants to find healthy snacks. So you're providing the value of a niche audience and direct-to-consumer marketing, touch-based marketing. You're giving people the opportunity to put their products literally in the hands of people who want to find those types of products. That pitch is very compelling, and it is something that every single brand basically needs to do, unless they're already doing big sample marketing efforts. And there's some medium to large size company maybe doing sample stuff at Whole Foods or something like that. So when you think about making the pitch to people, really think about that saying, we help people discover your products. If you want to find a really good sourcing guide, you can head over to my buddy Jameson Morris's blog, jamesonmorris.com. He's got a good guide on how to source products for a subscription box. This is actually this is our original office in Santa Monica some 6 years ago with our first shipment of boxes. He talks about identifying the products, reaching out, payment, delivery, kind of some of the stuff that we just went over, just a little bit more in detail. And it's a good way to it's a good little guide to kind of complement the learning that you'll have from today. So continuing this, so to get price down, consider some more selling points. If you're a discovery platform, tell them my subscription helps discover the best niche brands, whatever that niche is. Best vegan brands, best paleo brands, best fly fishing brands. By being in our box, you can expect the opportunity. Remember, it's going to be the opportunity to acquire loyal new customers and evangelists. If you're doing a replenishment subscription where you're saying the same thing every month, you can say, or some very similar products each month, like a new soap of the month club or something like that. You can say to them, my subscription replenishes customers' needs every month. And by being part of that, customers will be able to test and try your product before committing to buying it, which they need to do every month. That's because that's why they sign up for the subscription. So a replenishment platform is kind of like you have the opportunity to become the new favorite brand of this person because they need this product all the time. And we know that they need it all the time because they sign up for a subscription for it. If you're super highly niche, so for example, if it's like Jameson's current business is a yoga business. So if you're super highly niche, that's even better. You can say my subscription is centered around this specific niche, and by partnering with us, you get brand authority. You get access to our highly, highly targeted community. So for example, the difference here between this and like the discovery platform is if your discovery was for healthy snacks, a highly niche version of that would be healthy vegan snacks or healthy gluten-free snacks or healthy vegan and gluten-free snacks. Those are more niche platforms than just discovering healthy snacks. So kind of keep that in mind. That's kind of the difference between these two types of pitches. And then ask yourself, what else do I offer brands? Do I do extra marketing? Do I allow them to put stuff inside my box? Do I do email marketing for them? Do I take photos of their products and give it back to them? Do I organize reviews for them? Think about all the things that you're doing to benefit the people who are inside your box, and then tell them that. Tell your brand partners what you do to support them. And then, if you have, for example, a really specific dollar mark that you need to hit before you can ship this box, like you just can't afford a product that's, $3. It's got to be $2.50 for whatever reason, because that's just the way your margins are looking. Tell them, be totally transparent with them. Say, listen, this is where I'm at. I need to get this amount. Can you work with us? If not, that's fine. But this is our kind of our middle ground. Like this is as far as we can go. So don't be afraid to negotiate that and see how close people can come to your rock bottom price. So once you've done the negotiations and you've acquired the product, there's going to be some standards and best practices that you're going to want to follow and just be aware of in the conversations and for future conversations. So for one, wholesale is usually 50% of MSRP. So you can find out really quickly if someone's appropriately priced their product if their wholesale is more than 50% of MSRP. So for example, if someone's making this like a really nice candle, I run into this a lot, especially with candles. Um, they'll be selling it at like, $10 for this nice like 6 ounce like beeswax candle or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm interested in learning more about your pricing. And they're like, oh, well, we can offer you wholesale. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the wholesale? And they're like, oh, it's $8. And so they're selling it for $10, but their wholesale is 8. So their wholesale is 80% of their MSRP. That either means that they're kind of jerking your leg, or that their product was really poorly priced. I mean, ideally wholesale is half of MSRP, and cost, it fluctuates, but generally cost should be 50% of wholesale. So that candle should cost $5, should wholesale for $5, and the cost of the material should only be about $2.50. So hopefully they priced well. That's kind of the lesson there. Payment terms, we talked a little bit about this. Most vendors are open to pretty flexible payment terms. But net 30 is payment provided net 30. So within 30 days you pay them 50% down, 50% net 30 is half the payment right now. The other half within 30 days, 100% down is just 100%. You have to pay them all right now. So when you're doing net payments, remember that you have to attribute cost to the correct months and save revenue for it. So if you have all your products, for example, do net 30 payments or net 30 for 50% of your payments this month, just keep in mind that you've got to save 50% of all of that to pay them next month. So make sure you realize those expenses at the right time. And then I'll just kind of encourage you to have access to several mediums. Get your PayPal account set up now and verify it with your bank, so you don't have to wait. There's no waiting period. Make sure you have checks ready. Make sure you've got everything connected to your bank account, to Etsy, all that stuff. Like whatever platforms you use, go and create all that stuff right now, because there's usually like a 5 to 7 day processing time with a lot of these, where they want to verify your identity, and they want to make sure that you have a legit business account, and that can take some time. So just make sure that you do that for as many mediums as you can. So when you do run into someone that says, yeah, I want to use PayPal, you've already got a PayPal account set up with a bank account already attached to it. Other common questions I hear are, do I need a wholesale license? No, we're not wholesalers. Remember, we're not reselling to other dealers or distributors, and we're not directly reselling products to customers. We're selling our own product, which is like a surprise box. So you don't need a wholesale license to be purchasing and selling your subscription. Do you need insurance? This is something that you should definitely consider. A general liability insurance policy can protect you from negligence on the part of your vendors, or from defective product claims. They're usually pretty cheap. So can I pack boxes and products in my own house? You can absolutely do this, but only if you're handling prepackaged goods. Don't make a cookie mix in your garage, for example, without following the proper precautions and following local law. For example, with like a cookie mix or something that you're making yourself that's going to be consumed, you need to have a food handling license. You've got to have a certified commercial kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. So next question, do I need my warehouse to be inspected or certified? So if you're at the stage where you have a warehouse and you've got like, boxes piling up and, lots of product coming in, this might come up. Usually with bigger national brands, they'll say, do you have a certified warehouse? What that means is, you have to make sure there's some specific things that you have to do in a warehouse to make sure everything's safe and sanitary. For example, nothing can touch the floor. So all your products have to be on pallets. You have like, rodent traps. You've got to have, climate control if you're doing some specific types of products, or refrigeration for some, specific types of products. So in a rare case, that might be something that you need to do, but it's not something that you need to like worry about right away, unless you happen to be working with someone like Kraft or something like that. I only dealt with that about 2 or 3 times in the last 6 or 7 years. So who pays for shipping? This really depends on your negotiations. And when I say pay for shipping, I mean, how do you actually get the product? If you're based in Oregon and your product partner's in Florida, who's paying the shipping to get that product from Florida to Oregon? I kind of say you offer to pay shipping so you can get a better per unit cost, but you could offer to split it. You could always say we don't pay for shipping. That's part of That's kind of your skin in the game for us marketing you, or whatever your pitch is. Just keep in mind that shipping costs are going to be a reality for each type of product you source if it's out of state. So those are the 4 steps. We talked about how to kind of orient yourself around product purchasing. We talked about how to kind of understand your niche and understand what your expectations are around with your customer. We talked about some different places to find your product. We talked about negotiating with your product, and then we talked about kind of some standards and some FAQs that you should be aware of when you actually start purchasing and putting products together in a warehouse or in a garage or something like that. So I want to give you guys an assignment here, and unfortunately today is not Tuesday, it's Thursday. It's April 28th, so on May 5th, you should have a product procurement worksheet completed, or a product sourcing worksheet completed. That was this thing. So what I'd like for you to do is to put together one of these, or download it from the Subscription School website, or go to my blog and let me email it to you later. Get your hands on this somehow, and go through and start to fill it out. Create different lines for each different vendors you want to use. Maybe put in 10, 15, 20 or something like that. Just research some potential brand partners and fill out as much of it as you can. You can probably fill out the retail price, the link, maybe you can find a wholesale pricing catalog online if they're medium-sized business, or a little bit more better developed than a super small business. You could fill that in for your mock pricing data. Maybe you can get it lower than that, but if you can get a wholesale catalog, and you can start to fill that stuff in so you can start to see what your costs look like. But fill it out as much as you can, and then after you do this next Thursday, then you can actually start contacting these people and actually start procuring your first or your next box. So now we're going to jump into this Q&A. I see we've got about 10, 15 questions here. I'm going to leave up these action item reminders. So what I would like you to do walking away from this webinar is to create a monthly procurement worksheet. Look into a couple CRMs. Maybe it's Solve 360, maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's the HubSpot free CRM. But go look at them and see if they're going to be useful for your business. You should really understand your value proposition to customers and to vendors in the next week too. So make a point to plot this out. What am I telling customers to expect in the box? And then how am I going to negotiate with vendors? How am I going to give them incentive to give me great prices? You also should have identified some good sources of niche products. So thinking back to the different places where you can find these things, identify a couple of these sources, whether it's local stores or niche e-commerce websites or Etsy, and list them out. And when you fill out your procurement worksheet, maybe even make note of where this product is coming from. And then optionally, you could create a business invitation that looks like this. But I'll leave these up here, and I'm going to go ahead and start answering these questions. So if you have questions that are lingering still, now's the time to answer them, ask them. Okay, so the first one is from Ben. He says, I'm curious about US versus Alibaba sourced products in terms of cost versus quality. So Ben, I've got a little bit of experience with this over the years. I've got a friend who does use Alibaba products pretty regularly. Personally, I don't think that there's any comparison to US made products, and I don't say that out of some source of US pride. But it's more about just from what I've seen. I mean, depending on what that product is, Ben, it can really depend. If it's a tin cup, then by all means, I mean, a tin cup is a tin cup. You very well be able to find a high quality tin cup on Alibaba that you can, slap a sticker on and have a custom mug or something like that. If you're looking, for example, for a really nice aloe vera face mask, you can find those on Alibaba. You literally can find that specific product. I've seen that on there before. Do you want to source aloe vera face mask from Alibaba though? I'm not sure. I'd rather source it from a local vendor who's making it with better ingredients, and they're following local regulations, and they're a little bit more, I think, vested in the quality of their product when they're a local producer versus being an overseas producer. Cost-wise, it's going to be much, much cheaper. Usually it's twice or three times as cheap using Alibaba. Like I said, it really depends on the product, but there's other costs associated with that. You might be paying $1,000 in shipping. You might be paying more than that, depending on what your product is. So when you're thinking about the cost, what you have to do is you've got to include the other fees associated with using Alibaba, like shipping and freight and that type of thing. And shipping from overseas isn't super cheap. And in addition to that, you don't want to you want to make sure it's not going to get caught up in customs, and you're going to have to go down to your customs house and get your product released, or you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for it to get inspected. So there's other risks and costs associated with overseas purchasing. If it is a non-consumable good, then that's something that I think is more reasonable to purchase overseas. But it's totally up to you. I would say find a product and then search locally, and then search on Alibaba or IndiaMart or something like that, and do some comparisons yourself. And ask for quotes on shipping. I like to source books as a part of my subscription business. How would you suggest doing this? Should I approach the sales marketing department of the publisher? Yeah, I would suggest doing that. It depends on what volume you're looking at, Michelle. But I've worked with a couple publishers before for different subscriptions, and usually I go straight to the publisher. I don't go to a distributor. I say, hey, this is why your book looks great in our box. In one box, we worked with the same publisher every month. We had a travel guide in every single box. So we had a really good relationship, and we got really good prices because of that. So if that's something that you think would be applicable to yours, Michelle, I would definitely suggest reaching out to the publisher and making that pitch. It's all about volume, though. Just keep that in mind. Books are generally pretty expensive, and I've found that it's been pretty hard to negotiate with certain publishers. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your purchasing. So Kim asks, if you find a product on Amazon, is there a good way to contact them about buying in bulk, or is it better to search that product out on Google? Yeah, Kim, I would just reach out. If you find them on Amazon, just find them online. Get their name from Amazon and then search them on Google. So Kim also asks, we aren't a box where the products are typically reused. They are to help with a specific activity for that month only. Will that make our product procurement more difficult? Not necessarily. I mean, most boxes, they only have products that last a couple days. Mine, I think I've only had a couple products that have lasted beyond that. There are lots of consumable products, also bath and body goods that you use and they're gone. So I don't think it's going to make your product procurement more difficult. I usually have to find 10, 15 new people each month for my current business. Sometimes I reuse brands, never the same product, maybe the same brand, but it sounds like you'd be basically in the same boat as everybody else, Kim. Barry asks, do you use MailChimp or some other software to keep track of cold emails for businesses? You wouldn't use MailChimp, Barry. What I suggest using is, if you don't want to reach out to them just through your Gmail account, this is when a CRM would make a lot of sense, because you can see the emails that you've sent to people over time. So Solve 360, for example, or even the free one from HubSpot, you can schedule emails through your CRM. So you'll link it to your Gmail account. Maybe it's boxman@barry.com, and you link it to your Gmail account, and then you can schedule emails out. So maybe you're like working at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're scheduling a bunch of emails. And then when those emails send the next morning, you can go back in your HubSpot CRM and then look to see when that email is sent. And then maybe it's been 6 months since you reached out to that, Jesse's Candle Company. You can go back to that candle company entry in your CRM, and then you can see that email you last sent them. So that's a good way to do it if you think that you're going to be using lots of brands and you're going to want to be keeping track of that stuff. MailChimp is usually for just consumer communications. You could theoretically put 1,000 brands into an email list and then email all of them and say, hey, we're looking for this type of product. Would you like to be involved? You could do something like that, but that would be kind of more of like a bulk email function, not so much of a specific email. So Kim asks, how do we procure printing? Kim, can you let me know what you mean by that? Do you mean like product inserts, like little brochures for your box? Let me know a little bit more about that, and I'll answer that question for you. Camilla asks, would you recommend adding gift cards in a box? Yeah, I mean, as long as it can be used in all 50 states, I think that people are really subscribing to subscription boxes because they want to have a cool product experience. So if I got you know, like a Chili's gift card, I don't know how excited I would be. But if your subscription is about that type of thing, then yeah, of course. Let's say you're doing a music subscription and you have a couple stickers, um, a couple guitar picks, a CD, and then a $15 iTunes gift card. That could be cool because it's totally niche related. Just make sure that it makes sense with your product offering, and it's a part of a cohesive experience. That's the main thing I would make sure if you do gift cards. Do I have to purchase the products before the pre-subscribe phase, or should I collect as many subscribers first before placing the order from suppliers? Good question, Harish. Yes, if you're doing a pre-launch, let's assume that on day 1 you're starting your pre-launch, and on day 60 you're opening your store and actually accepting subscribers, and on day 90 you're actually shipping your first box. So you pre-launch for 2 months, and then you quote unquote launch for 1 month where you're accepting subscribers and getting ready for your first shipment. And maybe that launch month isn't a full 30 days, maybe it's only 15, so you're actually shipping on day 75. But whatever it is, you should start thinking about purchasing products around day 45 to day 60. You want to give yourself at least 3 to 4 weeks for finding products, depending on what your niche is. So about halfway through your pre-launch, once you've got your idea validated, and you've got good conversion rates, you've got a good list of people, and you can make a reasonable assumption about how many people you think are going to subscribe. Maybe it's 5% of your total leads list. So if you have 1,000 people, you think you might get 50 subscribers your first month. Then you can reach out to vendors and say, hey, I'm going to need probably this many items. I would say try to keep it vague until you actually have launched your subscription. Don't commit to anything really hard quite yet. But that's about at the phase where you should start reaching out to vendors at least 3 or 4 weeks before your first box is actually going to ship, because that's going to give them enough lead time. So Kim says yes, instruction pages, inserts, that type of thing. So Kim, I personally use a local print shop. They're called Stevens Integrated Solutions. That's in Portland, Oregon. You probably wouldn't use them unless you're in Portland, because they'd probably charge you quite a bit for shipping around to wherever you might be. So I would suggest using just a local print shop. Call them up. I use 5x7 inserts, and I stick those inserts inside my box. If you want to make something really nice and custom, just about any print shop, even a FedEx print shop, you can talk to them about what you want, and they can print it for you. I really like to use local small businesses in basically everything I do, so I choose to use a local small business for my printing. It's a little bit more expensive, but I've known them for a couple of years, and they're pretty cool people, so I like to continue to use them. But any print shop will work, and I wouldn't really consider that part of your product sourcing. I would consider that more of your cost of goods in terms of inserts, packaging, packing material. That's more of there's no value of that for your customers, really. That value is just to make sure they understand what's supposed to be in the box. So before we get out of this webinar, I want to ask you guys one more question. So after we talked about everything today, what do you think is going to make product sourcing difficult for you? Maybe this has changed since we started the webinar, or maybe it's the same, but I want to find out what kind of part of the process do you think was going to be difficult, or is going to be difficult for you to actually find and procure these products. So if you could just answer this poll really quickly for me, I'll leave this up here for a couple minutes. The options are finding the right product. So if you think it's going to be really difficult to actually locate your products, that would be the first option. The negotiation phase, maybe the expense. Are they too expensive? If you have started product sourcing, maybe you think that it's easy, but you've just been getting bad customer feedback. And so it's been difficult because you actually don't know what to be giving subscribers. And if you want to say that you don't think any of these are difficult, or you haven't started sourcing products yet, you can choose that option. But even if you haven't started sourcing products yet, if you want to let me know what you think is going to be the hardest, you can always choose that too. And I'll leave this up here for about 3 more seconds. Looks like we got most people who voted. Okay, so I'll share these results with you. So it looks like most people think it's going to be too expensive, or just seem to have a hard time finding it. So for the people who are worried about the expense, really spend a lot of time thinking about the negotiations and how you're benefiting the businesses. I think that you can get prices down below wholesale. If you are spending $15 on product and you have a $25 box, or let's say a $30 box, that gives you about, $6 for shipping, 10, $15 for products, $2 for inserts. You're left with like a $7 margin or so, roughly around $5 to $10, somewhere in between. Maybe it lands at $6 a month. Maybe it lands at $9 other months. It's a decentish margin. Then you should really think about how you can drive their prices down from wholesale. And I think that if you ask and if you request that from people and you really make a good pitch, you can definitely do that. You can also always try to procure free product. I don't think that's a sustainable way to get product for your subscription box, and you should always price your business with purchasing in mind. But try some different stuff out. I think getting the prices down is one of the biggest challenges. I think you're right thinking that, but it's not impossible. So make a nice brand invitation, get a really nice cohesive pitch together for people, and really make it clear that you are going to be doing something that is going to add a lot of value to their business and drive them more purchases down the line. Last question, Meredith says, will there be a replay? There will be a replay. It'll be in the video section of Subscription School, and that'll be up in the next couple of days. And again, if you want to engage with us a bit more, head over to the Subscription School Facebook group. It's Subscription School. It's a private group. Just request to be allowed in, and I will approve you today for attending the webinar. So thanks so much, everybody, for attending. I hope this was really useful for you. This will be up on Subscription School the next couple of days. And if you want to join some future webinars, we'll be announcing our May webinars pretty shortly, so keep an eye on this page. Best of luck with your product sourcing, and have a great rest of your day. See you later. 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 Great rest of your day. See you later.